Hello and welcome to Tea Leaf English. I'm your host, Vu, and today I've got a special guest. Is Sia Craton from Counseling with Craton. Hi, Sia.
Hello.
Thank you for coming to the show. Can you tell us about your work experience and educational background?
Absolutely. So my name is Craton Highways. I am a psychotherapist, drug and alcohol counselor, and mental health educator. I do my clinical practice in an outpatient setting for a local government agency in the US. I primarily work with adults who have substance use disorders and co-occurring mental health disorders. The populations I work with are those experiencing poverty and people with disability. Um, and a lot of them don't have their basic needs met, like housing, employment, and health insurance. It can be a little bit challenging working with these populations that are vulnerable in our community. I have a master's degree in social work and a bachelor's science degree in psychology. I am an author of a mental disorders book published in Myanmar in 2018, and I'm in the process of publishing my second book there called Our Mind Speak. So stay tuned. That's written in Burmese language. And I also teach and train both professionals and non-professionals around the world on mental health education and mental disorders, trauma, resilience, drug and alcohol education, and gender and sexuality.
That sounds like a lot of topics. And
Yeah.
you mentioned about your new book. Do you think you can give us a sneak peek or a quick overview of what the book will be about?
Yeah, sure. So the book is gonna be coming out, I think, this fall before at the end of summer, which is September, October, maybe, if not sooner. So there are 6 parts in the book. One focuses on parenting, and then one focuses on relationship management, and then about gender and sexuality. And then there are recommendations for trauma healing and my own experiences, like case studies and case experiences that I work with here.
I look forward to reading it when it comes out. So, Sia, so in that case, then, what can people do for their mental health and well-being?
Yeah, that is a broad question. So I think I'm gonna answer that question by asking you a question.
Sure.
Okay. So what do you think affects your mental health, mental well-being? Like you wake up one morning and then you're in a bad mood all of a sudden. Maybe you didn't sleep well last night or you have something stressing coming up throughout the day. What do you think affects your mental health?
I think to me, a lot of things like physical needs. Say, for example, I didn't have enough sleep, like you said, or I'm hungry and I
Uh-huh.
can't think and I'm stressed.
Uh-huh.
So, a lot of factors like physical and also environment. Say, if you're
Yeah.
in a high pressure working environment, that could have an impact. Or say, if you
Uh-huh.
live with a family member who, like you said, had some alcoholism, things like that could also have an impact on you.
Uh,
To me, physical,
yes.
yourself, and also your environment.
Yes. Yes. I agree. Thank you. And you had the right answer. But to add to that is improving mental well-being is a multifaceted endeavor, right? That encompasses all of the things that you mentioned, like various aspects of life. In psychology and in counseling, we call it a biopsychosocial spiritual approach or a holistic approach, right? So there's 4 aspects: biological, psychological, social or environmental, and then spiritual. We're going to start with biological component of it, right? So that will involve maintaining adequate physical health and seeking medical treatment if you have a health condition that needs some attention, serious attention. You have to seek help. You have to get it treated if you can afford, right? And there's sleep and diet. There's physical activities, keeping your body active and healthy. And then on the psychological side, we got to manage our stress, right? We all have stress, day-to-day life, and emotional dysfunction. Sometimes we can have really intense emotions. So we got to learn skills to regulate those emotions to keep our stress level down. And then staying mindful about our thoughts our emotions, our behaviors, and responses to the events, situations, or people around us. And not only that, when you find yourself struggling, we got to be open to listen to what our body and mind have to say and take care of ourselves in any shape or form, whether it's exploring therapy or talking to someone you can trust or practicing mindfulness and meditation. And then there's also anger management. We're really angry and irritated at work. Then we got to address those concerns, and becoming more self-aware can definitely boost your mental well-being.
So it sounds to me that make sure your physical needs are met, like food, sleep, and on
Yeah.
top of that, thinking of how
Yes.
you can be mindful towards things that happen to you. Because to me,
Mhm.
you can't control the outside environment, but you can control, to some extent, I think you can control your thoughts or feelings.
Yes.
Would you say that?
Well, I believe that we cannot control our emotions. We cannot control our thoughts. Thoughts tend to be automatic because depending on how your day is, where you are in your life, then who are the people around you? What systems do you live under, right? And so I don't think you can control your thoughts and emotions, but we can replace them. When we have negative thoughts, we can try to switch mode. And then as soon as you're aware of your thoughts, okay, I'm having negative thoughts and they're not real, they're just thoughts, right? And then I can try to shift them. Okay, how can I replace these thoughts with positive ones? Or if I find myself in a really sad mood, I can just regulate that emotion. If I'm feeling really anxious or depressed or angry, I can regulate them instead of control them. But that's just my belief. And in terms of reactions and behaviors that you can have control over, you can control how you react to a certain emotion or certain event or certain situation. How you respond and react matters the most.
Do you think then you can give me now or our listeners one practical thing you can do when you are feeling really stressed and anxious and
Uh,
really in a bad mood? What is one simple thing
yeah.
you can do to change that mood instantly?
Sure, there are a lot of grounding skills that I can teach you, but one of them is just noticing what's around you. We call it 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 model. So notice without any judgment, immediately what's like 5 things, 5 objects that you visually see, and then try to label them or uh, put a color to it, highlighter, a cell phone, a blue cell phone, a gray cell phone, like 5 objects, and then 4 things that you can feel or touch, right? And then 3 things you can hear, like birds chirping, wind howling, or whatever, sirens, and 2 things that you can smell, whether it's coffee or tea or something that's nearby, and then 1 thing that you can taste, candy or gum, things like that, or go get a glass of water. So that will help you get out of that headspace that you were that's not really helpful and that is being negative. So that will it's like a reality check, like that will keep you reconnect yourself with the reality and then help you get out of that angry state.
That sounds like a very useful
Yeah.
technique. I will try that as well next time. Thank you.
Yeah, please do. So social or environment, like you said before, it's important, right? What's happening around you matters, right? So keeping your social connections alive and well is really important to our well-being, right? If we're feeling isolated and sad and depressed, we all want to connect to people. We have a sense of belongingness. We want to belong, right? We want to be a part of something, part of a community, part of a group, part of a country, society, right? So developing and maintaining these connections and meaningful relationships with people is really important. And it can come in a form of giving back to the community, like through volunteering or doing things that are helpful to the society. And then you will feel really good about it because that's what you want to do. And you have this like sense of accomplishment and productivity and usefulness in the world, right? That's what is really important in treating our clients. A lot of people don't have that social connection. They lack that social component of their life and they're really isolated and that can drain their psychological well-being as well. So they all intertwine, as you can see here. And then spirituality is also important. Staying in touch with your spirituality, it doesn't necessarily have to be religious, but it can be religion related. It could be keeping in touch with your heritage, your cultural considerations, your traditional values, staying in touch with those who share similar beliefs and interests with you, right? And it can be religion too if you are a person of faith. Um, but yeah, keeping yourself connected with your spiritual beliefs and values because they're important to you and they're important to the people that matter to you. Yeah, all intertwine and weave together to become holistically healthy.
Mm. That's interesting. Like by helping other people, you tend to feel better about yourself as well and have that connection. And I
Yeah.
really like listening to what you said about the final part about spirituality as well, like having something to believe in or having something, that connection.
Yeah, it's your value system and your belief system. If you believe in God, great, right? It's not about faith or belief, it's about the people as well. So there's social aspect in your spiritual aspect because it's about the community, it's about the people. And then and also, of course, if you believe in God or the universe, right? Or if you believe in Buddhism, then great. As long as you stay connected with what you truly believe, because it brings you peace and joy and internal calmness and stability, that it is effective to your well-being.
Thank you, Sia. That's very useful. How can educators or teachers promote mental well-being in their classroom for their learners?
That's also another great topic, which I can talk all day about. But for the sake of time, I will try to make it brief and short. I think that the most important thing to me is for educators is to be trauma informed. Because a lot of people have gone through trauma. Trauma is more prevalent than you think it is around us. Like by being trauma informed, becoming more aware of trauma's personnel and societal consequences, how trauma survivors may respond to our words and actions, and doing our part to create a world and environment that does not cause further harm for them, for these trauma survivors, right? Being trauma informed means helping to create a world that foster growth, that foster resiliency and healing. So I would say for educators, you have to educate yourself first about these traumas and trauma responses. Take some trainings on trauma and trauma for different people and what healing can look like in these people. And take a class, right? Take an introductory class in human development or child psychology if you work with a younger population. Help create a judgment-free zone, a judgment-free classroom if you teach in a classroom environment or like both in virtual or in-person settings. Promoting diversity is I think is really important. Like in everywhere we go, like diversity matters. There must be diversity and diverse voices and diverse experiences. Then welcoming all the backgrounds, right? For educators, it's really important. Normalize and celebrate differences, including socioeconomic status, race, ethnicity, skin color, religion, gender, sexual orientation, disability, both physical, intellectual, and cognitive disabilities, and try to nurture collaborative efforts rather than competition, right? Competitions are great, but if you're not being collaborative with others and if there's no team effort, it's just gonna be like conflicts after conflicts after conflicts and competition. It's about who's winning, right? But it's not about that. It's about nurturing teamwork, collaborative efforts, how we can achieve together, not achieving alone, right? And then utilize compliments and praises rather than taking punitive measures. Instead of punishing somebody, why don't we create a space where everybody can chime in and give constructive feedback to each other and avoiding calling out on students in public in front of the entire classroom. Like, you did this, it is shameful, it's not allowed, it's not acceptable, right? You're publicly calling them out And if they're exhibiting some problematic behaviors, but why can't we try to talk to them in private to adjust behaviors and reset some expectations? We can do that with respect, right? And then setting some ground rules that are inclusive, fair, and equitable, and agreed by everyone. Like before a class starts or before a group starts, we can set some ground rules. Okay, that is agreed by everyone in the group, so that if somebody broke a rule, then we can go back to the board, like the chart. Okay, these are the rules that we set at the beginning of the uh, class or group, and then it is our expectation to follow these through. So we can always go back and tell them because we established those ground rules all together as a team, right? And I want to say promote mutual respect and normalize listening to others without interruption, right? Also, for adult educators, we have to learn from young learners. They know so much, they know more than what we think they do. They know a lot. So we have to keep open minded about what they are thinking, what they're seeing, because we have different lands, right? Different generations have different ways of experiencing things, expressing things, and understanding things. They young learners too and will have experiences and outlooks different than ours. That's for sure. So we got to try to keep up with them and stay educated. Just because we've lived our life doesn't mean we know everything, right? We have to continue to learn from them as well as teach, and then we have to teach gratitude and appreciation because they're all tied to mental being and community health. And yeah, learn and teach relaxation techniques like breathing exercises in classrooms, mindfulness, meditation practices, because they can definitely ground people and calm them down so that they have a better self-awareness and awareness of others. Did that? Oh, yeah, that was a really long answer.
I don't think
More than I wanted to answer.
But all those tips you have mentioned, I think it also applies to parents as well, not only even educators. Because you mentioned about how
Yes.
you should be trauma informed, how you should have awareness and knowledge, and also of different types of traumas, and also setting some ground rules and being inclusive, and like setting
Yes.
expectations and managing them, like you mentioned about ground rules. And finally, you've also mentioned some relaxation techniques as well. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah. Yeah, you're welcome.
I'd also like to focus a little bit on professionals. By that, what I mean is, if, say, what tips and advice do you have for those people who are interested in becoming a counselor?
A professional counselor, you have to have some education first. Before education, I think we have to start with a compassionate heart. You have to have that. That is the underpinning. That is a necessity to have a compassionate heart to help people, to genuinely want to help people's lives and people's well-being, right? Um, and heart and interest and passion. Like counseling is not just about giving advice or problem solving or fixing people, but rather it is an educated, comprehensive process that involves listening to others without judgment, validating the feelings and experiences, again, without judgment, showing empathy, knowing how to ask the right questions, and bringing motivation out of them. Sometimes we have to, as counselors, we have to persuade people, convince people, because the way they're seeing certain things are a little bit distorted. They have like cognitive errors that they're not seeing. So we have to try to show it to them or think outside the box or think entirely differently. And then sometimes it involves goal settings, like what do they want to accomplish? What mental health goals do they have? What things are distressing them and why are they in this state of mental health? And then teaching them relevant skills is also important and helping them think reflectively and differently. So yeah, counseling is more than just listening and giving advice, right? And it also involves promoting change talk when it's cognitive or behavioral change. If someone is some problems in relationships or at work because of alcoholism, if they have problematic drinking patterns or addiction to alcohol, then we have to address it. And then, but if they're not ready to change, if they're not ready to quit drinking, then we have to teach them skills. And okay, you cannot quit entirely, but what can we do to reduce your stress due to your addiction? Can you drink less? Can you drink in a control environment safely without driving, without interacting with other people because you might not be in control of your behaviors and actions and words when you're really drunk. So how can we help you drink safely if you're not ready? So yeah, like things like that, like we have to do a lot of adjustments if they're not ready yet, because I personally value people's self autonomy and self decision making. Like if they're determined to do something, then I respect that. If they're not, I'm not going to force them to do anything because that is their life and this is their choice. Also, helping people see and acknowledge their own strengths, positivity, resilience, and growth, like achievements in general. I have clients who have really low self esteem, who struggle with self worth, and they don't understand or see their own progress. I have a client who has really low self esteem, and they've made some progress in therapy, right? And after 10 sessions, but they're reluctant to admit they have made some progress because of low self-esteem. And they're like this constant state of negative self-talk and blaming themselves. For other people, it is definitely big progress. They struggle with that, accepting that progress. We have to keep talking and try to change the perspective a little bit for them in a language that they understand and they can accept, right? So counseling is definitely a hard work. Not saying it because I'm a counselor. It is really hard, and you have to listen empathetically and actively at the same time. And sometimes we have to step back and talk less. We just listen. And some clients don't want to be talked to the whole time. Sometimes they don't want advice. They just want somebody that they can talk to. They can share this stuff that they are bottling up to share. They're like experiencing a lot of stress, experiencing a lot of negative emotions. They just want to talk. And we have to ask open-ended questions instead of yes, no question. You have to get them to talk. Some people don't want to talk because there's no relationship yet. There's no trust or rapport yet. It's okay to give some time to establish that a little bit first, and then try to ask the right questions to get them to talk. And I want to say also to take psychology classes for those who are interested in counseling profession. Study psychology, study human development, and also if you want to really become like a professional counselor or a psychotherapist, study psychopathology and take intensive trainings and get certified. It's really important. You have to get direct hours, a lot of like practice hours accrued to become licensed or to become certified, depending on where you live in the world. If you can get a degree in psychology or social work or counseling and get a graduate degree after that, if you can. And then what else? I think, yeah, that's just staying committed to helping people in general. It's the front and center of becoming a counselor.
Like you've mentioned, it sounds like hard work, but I think it can be fulfilling for people who are really passionate about helping other people. And yeah, I think it could be a fulfilling profession as well.
Yeah, it's definitely rewarding. Yeah.
Now that we're talking about being a counselor, I also want to hear your experience about challenges and opportunities that you have encountered in your career. And how have you overcome them?
Yes. Okay. So I'll start with challenges first. Each individual has their own unique lived experience or experiences. The problems that they are presenting are also unique to them, right? I work with clients who have very complex mental health and social challenges, from trauma to depression, anxiety, OCD, substance use disorders, ADHD, more severe mental disorders like schizophrenia. For those people who don't even have their basic needs met, like I said before, like housing, healthcare, food, employment, no income, no safety, it's extremely challenging for these folks to keep themselves psychologically healthy because stability is a luxury to them, right? So when systems of a society fail, living in a very vulnerable life with no support, with no protection, with no safety or security in their life, then they might not have the right tools to make sense of the world, to make sense of things, because nothing in their life is working, no matter how hard they try, right? So because of that, for example, if like someone who has a disability and is experiencing poverty and homelessness with other physiological challenges, other health conditions, like they have chronic pain or they need to take pain medications all the time. And they're, of course, more vulnerable and likely to suffer other mental health challenges, right? Whether social anxiety, depression, or PTSD, they might also have a tremendous amount of trauma. Is very possible, very likely. So to help a client like that, can you imagine what you have to do? Addressing all these factors, all these components that are affecting their mental health is definitely a challenge. It's very hard. So we have to address those needs, those concerns, not just mental health, right? So physical health issues, socioeconomic barriers, the lack of basic needs, and all these layers intersect, creating multifaceted problems for people. So a significantly comprehensive intervention needs to occur to help someone like this, right? So if that is my client, because I have them, I can't just tell them to take some vacation and a self-care day, right? Because it's irrelevant to them. It would make no sense. I cannot help them alone. So I would have to bring in other stakeholders and work with multidisciplinary teams of healthcare providers, social workers, case managers, housing authorities, employment services, because they need income, they need employment to live life, and government or nonprofit agencies to help this client in all aspects of the life. And that person needs to be embedded to an integrated care system, right? That has been a great challenge in my career, helping vulnerable populations like this. In terms of opportunities, every client therapist interaction can pose as a challenge and an opportunity for me. At times, it can feel disheartening when I know I cannot help them all by myself and their needs are not being met. I might feel like I'm not helping them enough or fast enough, but I also have to remind myself certain things are beyond my control, beyond my power and authority. I am not their problem solver. I'm merely a psychotherapist, and I do not make decisions for them. I cannot push them to stop smoking. They're not ready. I cannot push them to do anything that they're not willing to do. So it's entirely their responsibility to take actions on my professional recommendations. So I tend to put the decision making authority, autonomy on my clients, on these people. When I don't see much progress after many counseling sessions, I take it as an opportunity to actively seek feedback from the client, like to figure out what's going on, what's been helpful, what's not been helpful, what is missing in our sessions. What do you think about my approach? Is it a fit? Are we even a right fit? Do you trust me? Do you feel comfortable continuing therapy with me? And if a client does not believe that I'm being helpful to them, then I might have to refer them out to someone else who might be a better fit for them. And I don't necessarily take it as an offense or a failure. It's an opportunity.
Mhm. Mhm. I think we've covered a lot of topics and we get a lot of advice and tips from you as well. Thank you, Sia Craton.
Thank you so much for inviting me to your podcast and allowing me to be a part of this great platform. And it was a great pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you. And like I said, I look forward to reading your new book that is coming out soon.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I will let you know.
So thank you, Sia, and I hope to see you soon.
Okay, goodbye.
This is Tea Leaf English, where we brew knowledge, sip inspiration, and connect with a vibrant community of professionals. Happy learning!